This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
The security breakdown that returned to Gaza is the most important news from the Palestinian territories, but no less important are the political maneuvers that will take place in Ramallah in the coming few days. Reporting on the statement of a prominent official in the Palestinian government, the French news agency said that the King of Jordan, Abdullah II, will visit Ramallah next Sunday to meet with the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. This is the first visit of an Arab leader to the West Bank, which is part of the efforts towards the Arab peace process. Shortly after the deployment of security authorities on the streets of Gaza was clarified as unrelated to the security plan, the language of bullets returned between the different factions as new clashes erupted today in Gaza, leaving at least 10 injured. The accounts differed on who instigated these clashes, but what's certain is that it's a bad omen for the fragile ceasefire between the different factions. More on this with Suhair Saqallah.
What started off yesterday as a relief for the citizens turned into its opposite at night. Members from the deployed police on the streets of Gaza clashed with an armed group that refused to obey their orders. This development prohibited the crew of Dubai TV from moving even inside the building as the density of fired bullets obstructed our visibility. The police patrols deployed in Gaza were described by the Minister of Interior as an initiative by some of the officers themselves and not part of the security plan as some people thought. The statement by the Minister of Interior did not make much of a difference to the citizens' optimism, who were like drowning people holding on to a straw for their lives.
We want to feel safe and secure. There must be some force. The police are the authority officials who can help us in finding peace of mind.
The most important thing for the citizen is to feel safe and secure.
Although the Prime Minister's office confirmed that the security plan was about to enter into its implementation stage, some sides quickly criticized the deployment of the police without coordination with the resistance factions.
Deployment without agreement means armed conflict with the resistance. An agreement between the sides is essential in easing the implementation process of the security plan, where all factions partake in maintaining security.
Regardless of who deployed the police, their existence on the street prevents crimes. What remains is the conviction of some armed groups that security is for everyone, and not only for some and not others.
While the Palestinians were starting another round of internal conflicts, the Israelis commemorated the occupation of Jerusalem and the West Bank after defeating the Arabs in 1967. Israeli and Palestinian peace groups used this occasion to organize demonstrations with the slogan, "Jerusalem is the city of peace." The demonstrators called for the Holy City to be the capital of two independent states living side by side. However, no matter how loud the voices of peace speak, the Israeli government insists on shutting its ears, and it persists in its plans to Judify Jerusalem. After the announcement of building 20,000 settlement units in the northern section of the city, Olmert's government prepares to launch an 8-year plan towards establishing Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the Jewish state.
40 سنة متواصلة عمر مأساة المدينة المقدسة.
The tragedy of the Holy City spans 40 continuous years, with the story of the occupation starting in 1967, with not yet an end. The Israelis, however, insist on finishing the final chapters of this story within the coming 8 years under one title, No Green Line, and the eastern and western parts of the city are the eternal capital for their state. This expansive plan was never absent from the Israeli agenda, and today the Council of Jerusalem uncovers more of its details, which include building 20,000 homes for Jews in the neighborhoods of eastern Jerusalem and 500 homes in its center. In other words, 3 Arab neighborhoods are erased from the new Israeli plan and replaced by settlements for extremist settlers. What the papers hide is even larger. The 3 neighborhoods are only the beginning of a plan to connect eastern Jerusalem to the northern and southern settlements, thus forming one residential cluster of settlements without any separation. This is followed by allotting more than $156 million to strengthen settlements in the city and gradually moving all governmental institutions to Jerusalem in the next 8 years. This is in addition to allotting $10 million next year for economic development in the city, which includes providing special privileges and tax breaks for companies if they move to Jerusalem. These items are on the agenda of the Israeli government's meeting the day after tomorrow, where, according to Olmert's government, the peace talks do not impact the Judaification of Jerusalem.
فبالنسبة لحكومة أولمرت الحديث عن السلام لا يفسد لتهويد القدس قضية.
Al-Qaeda organization in the land of the Islamic Maghreb released a video of the 2 armed attacks against the Prime Minister's headquarters and a security center in the capital Algiers, which took place last month. The attacks killed 33 people and injured 220 others. The video recording showed how explosives are made, as well as statements by the suicide bombers.
في تحد واضح للسلطات الجزائرية ودول المغرب العربي.
In a clear defiance to the government of Algeria and other countries in the Arab Maghreb, Al-Qaeda organization in the land of the Islamic Maghreb released a video about the 2 suicide attacks that killed 33 people and injured more than 200 others in Algiers on April 11, 2007. The organization, which was previously known as the Salafi Group for Islamic Call and Combat, released the video recording which showed the process of making the explosives used to blow up the Prime Minister's headquarters and a security center.
إضافة إلى وصايا منفذي الهجومين الثلاثة.
I urge my beloved nation to return to its religion.
ويتزامن نشر هذه الصور مع اعتقالات.
The release of these video recordings coincided with the arrests of individuals that the Algerian authorities accused of providing logistic support to the perpetrators of the April 11th attacks. Some members of the organization who declared responsibility for the attacks and vowed to launch more attacks were actually near the security center to videotape the explosion. They were rejoicing for what they described as the introduction of the new strategy of suicide operations into Algeria.
حاتم بوسالمي العربية.
Arab states are not seeking to wipe Israel off the map. This, according to Lebanese Prime Minister Fouad Saniora in an editorial published today in the New York Times. Saniora said that despite the high price, his country is willing to adopt the Arab League Peace Initiative, which calls for normalized ties between Israel and the Arab world in return for a full Israeli withdrawal from lands captured in the 1967 Six-Day War. The Lebanese leader also criticized the Vinograd Commission interim report for failing to address damage inflicted on Lebanon during last summer's war between Israel and Hezbollah. Hamas political leader Khalid Mashal has repeated threats to kidnap additional IDF troops if Israel does not release Palestinian prisoners. Speaking via telephone during a Hamas rally in Ramallah last night, Mashal said, "We will redeem our commitment to freeing prisoners jailed in Israel, even if this requires the abduction of another Gilad Shalit." More violence in the ongoing university students' protest action over proposed tuition hikes. 2 police officers and 2 students were lightly injured last night, and dozens of students were arrested during clashes in Jerusalem. The violence erupted as more than 1,000 students blocked Jaffa Road, one of the main traffic arteries in the capital, in violation of a prior agreement with security forces. Chanting "Free education for all" and "No education, no state," the students marched to the Prime Minister's residence, demanding that he personally intervene to resolve the month-long crisis. The demonstrators set up a protest tent close to Olmert's residence and say they will remain there as long as necessary. Meanwhile, however, other student leaders are reportedly beginning to despair of their struggle, fearing the cancellation of the second semester. The chairperson of the Ben Gurion University Student Union has resigned in protest over the continuing strike. In related news, the short and temporary relief from high school strikes across the country will end this Sunday. The Secondary School Teachers Association announced today that it will resume a partial strike in all junior high and high schools in the northern Haifa district. 7th to 12th graders will have a short day of studies ending at 11 o'clock in the morning. All activities and courses related to the upcoming matriculation exams, however, will take place as scheduled, following the ruling by the National Labor Court. Teachers have promised more nationwide strike actions next week and stress they will continue their struggle for better wages and employment conditions until an appropriate and comprehensive solution is reached.
The British Chancellor of the Exchequer, Gordon Brown, announced his campaign to replace Tony Blair as Labour Party leader and Prime Minister. During a press conference, he outlined his political positions and talked about the situation in Iraq. He acknowledged that mistakes were made there and stressed the importance of learning from the past. He also said that London must stay committed to what he called obligations towards Iraq.
I accept that mistakes have been made.
مقره الرسمي ملاصق لمقر رئيس الوزراء المغادر.
His official headquarters are very close to the departing Prime Minister's office. In fact, the British Prime Minister's office is now within Brown's reach, who is in his 50s. It seems that the door has opened for one of the longest-serving finance ministers in the UK in the last 200 years to take over from Tony Blair, who will leave office next month. Gordon Brown, who has a PhD in history, joined the Labour Party when he was 18 years old. When he was 21, he balanced between teaching at a university and working in television. He was elected as a Parliament member representing Westminster in London for the first time in 1993. He is credited for the success of the British economy. Brown played a central role in Blair's government for the past 10 years, and now he is competing with him over political fame. Brown, who is the son of a church minister and who is described as quiet, has a mysterious personality, and not much is known about his political positions. British reporters keep on saying that he is the opposite of Blair and that he lacks popularity and charisma. Others, however, say that Brown has a different political strategy and that he deliberately chooses to be quiet. In any case, it seems that Brown will take over the British Prime Minister's office, assuming that no last-minute surprises occur. Thus, the party that was just defeated in the elections and lost a lot of its credibility due to its consecutive scandals and the war in Iraq will actually retain the Prime Minister's office. There is a growing sentiment among Brown supporters that the solution is to avoid Blair's policies, at least pertaining to foreign affairs. In their view, a quick withdrawal from Iraq is an ineffective message. It is true that Brown voted for the war, and it is true that his ministry financed it, but those who know him say that it is unlikely for him to throw himself into the American lap like his predecessor.
The official for the Lebanese Coast Association, Mohammed Al-Serji, reassured visitors to Lebanese beaches that they are free of contamination. But citizens are asking questions.
With the start of the summer season, citizens are asking many questions about how clean the beaches are and whether they're free from contamination, after Lebanon was subjected to Israeli aggression last summer. In response to this, the president of the Lebanese Coast Association and the Divers Guild said that the Lebanese coast and its waters are free from contamination.
We have thousands of tons of contaminants that have been collected along the coast. For months we have been calling for them to be removed, especially since we are approaching the summer season. This contamination, especially what is in the bags, will melt under the hot sun. And if the bags are close to the beaches, it will also recontaminate the waters. It is wrong for us as an association or as a country to have to come back and clean the coast again.
The technical official in the association stressed that the cleanup operation of the coast was conducted without using chemical products.
We are cleaning the rocks with water. The image you just saw is the final phase in the cleaning process. We started by cleaning up the electrical companies, then the pools, then the dams, which were all full of oil.
A number of citizens seem to be afraid of the melted tar, which was collected in bags and thrown near the coast. They called on concerned parties to resolve this problem.
The beaches in Lebanon are all polluted.
The sun is melting the tar and it's seeping to the beaches. It's as if we didn't do anything. Everyone blames everyone else. We as citizens want someone to help. The Minister of Environment, may God reward you. Who will complete the job?
Although there are assurances from the Coast Association that the beaches are clean, citizens are concerned about the remaining bags of oil on the coast. If the concerned authorities remove these bags, the problem is simple to resolve.
Iran's Foreign Minister Manouchehr Mottaki stressed the importance of removing certain obstacles and preparing new ground for cooperation with North Korea. Mottaki was speaking in a meeting with visiting North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Kim Yong-il, who is currently in Tehran at the head of a delegation. The Iranian top diplomat said the Iranian government is interested in broadening ties with North Korea in various political, economic, and cultural areas. At the end of the meeting, the pair signed a memorandum of understanding. Under the MOU, the two sides are committed to exchange delegations at the level of deputy foreign ministers every year and hold consultation on different international issues. Iran's ambassador to the IAEA categorically denied a report by AFP on Iran's hindrance to IAEA inspections of its nuclear facility. On the margins of the ongoing 189-country conference on NPT in Vienna, Ali Asghar Soltani added such news are broadcast in an attempt to create a negative atmosphere against Iran's peaceful nuclear program in the conference. He further emphasized there has been no problem regarding the inspections of the IAEA inspectors in accordance with the articles of the NPT, and that the UN nuclear watchdog's top officials too have approved of this, since the IAEA inspectors are pursuing their work in Iran right now. Meantime, IAEA spokesman Mark Wittrecker said, quote, "There is no truth to media reports claiming the IAEA was not able to get access to Natanz." He added, quote, "We have not been denied access at any time, including the past few weeks," unquote. Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council Ali Larijani says it's not orthodox for the 5+1 to ignore Iran's numerous potential and drag its heels in resolving Iran's nuclear case under the pretext of suspension of Tehran's peaceful nuclear activities. On talks with the EU's foreign policy chief, Larijani said Tehran has launched forward-moving negotiations with Hari Solana. He added a consensus can be approachable if Europe exercises prudence and takes the right direction in dealing with Iran's case. He said the West will fight a losing battle if it holds on to its past nuclear literature, adding bullying fails to change the current atomic state of affairs in Iran. Foreign Minister Manouchev Mottaki says expert strategies are needed for Iran and the US to hold talks at the foreign ministerial level. The Iranian top diplomat said Washington has announced its request through the third party. He further said the US had better put in its official appeal through the Swiss embassy in Tehran to avoid possible misunderstandings and help assess the authenticity of the information. Mottaki went on to say too many twists and turns are existent in relations between Tehran and Washington, adding serious preparations should be made to open talks between the two countries. And the Taliban said it released Friday a French aid worker who was kidnapped more than 5 weeks ago and would decide later on the fate of his 3 Afghan co-workers. Eric Damfreville works for the organization Terre d'Enfance, that is, A World for Our Children. A Taliban spokesman said the released man was handed over to the tribal elders and later to the Red Cross Society. Damfreville and 3 Afghan co-workers were captured in southwestern Afghanistan on April the 3rd. A French woman who was abducted with them, Céline Cordelier, was released at the end of last month. An armed man has taken several hostages inside the Russian embassy in San Jose in Costa Rica. Heavily armed police, some clad in riot gear, sealed off the streets leading to the embassy, but no details were available on who the man is and who he might be holding hostage.
If you are one of those people who prefers to prepare a meal with as little effort as possible, then you should go to the Lazy Market in Damascus. It sells ingredients and ready-to-cook vegetables, so you don't have to cut onions and you don't have to peel garlic. Our correspondent, Intisar Yunus, who was busy preparing this report, bought her groceries from this market to prepare today's meal. She gives the following report.
Syrians have many comic terminologies, the most prominent of which is tenbal, or lazy. Now we are at the Lazy Market. This market saves a lot of time and energy for women. Everything is prepared to make the most excellent meal. Parsley for tabbouleh salad and squash for stuffed squash, chopped vegetables for soup, all ready for cooking.
Can you imagine? They don't have time to dice tomatoes. So they call us and say, we want 2 kilos of chopped tomatoes. We dice them. There's almost nothing left for us to do except cook for them, wash for them, and clean their dishes for all these women who have become so lazy.
This market was previously called the upscale market, as the high prices can only be afforded by the well-to-do. However, this has become common in many segments of society.
What's important is what comes from the market is clean. But the main cleaning of the vegetables has to be done at home. I wash and clean them at home. But of course, as for peeling, it is better for me when that is done here. As they say, if you are offered a cook, can you say no?
Some women completely depend on this market and prefer to rely on this market for all kinds of food.
I encourage this, but as for me, except for the seasonal foods, I don't buy peeled or diced vegetables.
Even before the spread of these kinds of markets, Syrian women were known for their excellent manners and good cooking. However, today the ingredients have changed. Here everything is prepared, just a short time before the mealtime. Perhaps saying the word lazy is easier than preparing a squash. Intisar Yunus, Dubai TV, Damascus.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad denies secret peace talks with Israel. Meanwhile, the Arab League is sending representatives to meet with Olmert's government. Is this a coincidence? These stories and more on Link TV's Mosaic Intelligence Report.
This week's battles between the Democratic-controlled Congress and the White House over military spending in Iraq almost eclipsed three surprise developments which unfolded on the Arab-Israeli front, at the focus of which is Syria. During a meeting on Thursday in Cairo, Israeli Foreign Minister Zevi Levni and Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak agreed that a team of Arab League representatives will be, for the first time ever, visit Israel for talks on details of the Arab Peace Initiative. Also on Thursday, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad said during a speech at the Syrian parliament that the Israeli government was too weak to make peace with Syria.
There is no progress in the peace process, and there is no contact with Israel over this issue, neither secret or overt. We must be careful from a weak Israeli government, because in the history of Israel, weak governments are able to wage war.
Earlier on Monday, a senior Israeli government source said that the decision to postpone a scheduled visit by U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice to Israel was unprecedented. The U.S. State Department has denied that this decision was a sign that the American administration is distancing itself from Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, who faced huge demonstrations throughout Israel. Are all these events a coincidence? And who should we believe? Unofficial talks between Israelis and their Arab neighbors are nothing new. Secret talks between Israelis and Palestinians in the early 1990s led to direct talks resulting in the 1993 Oslo Peace Accord. Last month, Ibrahim Suleiman, a Syrian-American businessman with close ties to Syria's leadership, and Alon Liel, the former Director General of the Israeli Foreign Ministry, briefed Knesset members about the prospects for peace with Syria. After their talks, they told reporters that they believed Israel and Syria could conclude a peace agreement in 6 months. According to a new internal document leaked to Israeli newspaper Ma'ariv and quoted by Army Radio, Israel should agree to talks with Syria to find out whether the recent peace overtures from President Bashar al-Assad are sincere. The 1973 war between Israel and Egypt led to a peace deal between the two at Camp David. Similarly, last summer's war between Israel and Hezbollah seems to be the catalyst for another deal between Syria, Lebanon, and Israel. Both Olmert and Assad may be denying the existence of secret talks, but their future depends on them. Peace with Israel will remove the ghost of Harir's assassination and will bring Assad back to the laps of the international community. And peace with Syria might be the last hope for Olmert to survive politically. The other alternative is another war, something Assad has alluded to during his speech. Condoleezza Rice has made several trips to the Middle East since taking office as Secretary of State to revive a stalled peace between Israel and its neighbors. None of those have made a tangible difference. Perhaps her absence this time might lead to a success the Bush administration can take claim to. I'm Jamal Dajani for the Mosaic Intelligence Report. To learn more about this program or to share your thoughts, visit us at linktv.org/mosaic.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you. If you value this program, please send your tax-deductible contribution to Link TV, either through the website or the mailing address listed on your screen. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only.